Imagine you just created the perfect sandwich. The button to topping ratios is just right. Now imagine your buddy comes in and spills a bunch of water on half of your sandwich. You still have half a good sandwich, but we all know the sandwich is ruined. Welcome to my review of the Plucky Squire. A sandwich that could have been great. Plucky Squire is definitely a game. I think I best described it in the show we did when I said, it's the only way I can describe it is I was hate playing the Plucky Squire. I don't really like the game. So, having said that, if you were to ask me to give you a single sentence review of the game, it might sound a little something like this. It's one of the best games I didn't enjoy playing. I think I'd only heard of this game in passing. Levi might have mentioned it on the weekly show, but beyond that, I had no idea it was coming out. Thankfully, it was part of PS Plus, so I added it to my library. Let me start off by saying I really love the concept of this game. It's nothing new, mind you, going from 2D to 3D and back again, but the devs have used it in a creative way. It's very fourth wall breaking, but in a fun way. Essentially though, is your classic light world, dark world kind of deal that a lot of games have done before. Let's start things off with what I liked, and then sort of liked, and then really disliked. The gist of it is, there's a kid's book called The Plucky Squire, and the villain has figured out that he's actually in a story, and that he always loses to our hero, Jot, aka the Plucky Squire. So to turn the tables, he uses some funky green magic to change the outcome of the story, by kicking our character out of the book and into, quote-unquote, the real world. It's a fun idea, and the characters in the story know that they are in a story and know that they are moving into unwritten territory. It gives the game a real, you are writing the story kind of vibe, and I'm all for it. It definitely has a lot of fun with the fourth wall and serves up some clever and witty jokes. Overall, it's a pretty simple story and, in my opinion, pretty forgettable as well. Visually, this game is interesting. When you're in the storybook, it has a very consistent and really nice hand-drawn visual style. When you leave to go to the real world, it has a bit more of a generic 3D platformer look. It doesn't look bad by any means, but nothing about it really stands out. It's all pretty generic stuff. The main thing it has going for it is a sense of scale. The real world in this instance is a desk in someone's room. Your character stands out quite a bit, juxtaposed against all the super large items on the desk. Things like other books, records, thimbles, paper clips, you name it. All the fun stuff you'd find in a desk is there represented, but at a much larger scale. It's always fun running by an enormous deck of cards or a pen or a paper clip. I'm kind of 50-50 on the visuals. As a 2D game, it's really nice. As a 3D game, it's pretty mid. Alright, let's talk about gameplay. This is where we start going downhill. Since this game is a real mishmash of genres, some things are okay and others are just not great. But I can confidently say nothing is awesome. Anytime the game switched to a 2D platform, I rolled my eyes. It's just not good. The controls are floaty and imprecise, and it all just feels like it could have used another pass in development. There are sections where you're shooting arrows with a bow, and it just doesn't function like you think it should. Shooting an arrow at your cursor feels like it should keep going in that direction in a straight line. So even if you don't line up the target exactly with your cursor, it should still hit it because it's in the same line of sight. But nope. I know this is a small thing, but it's just annoying. And it happens to be in a standout gameplay moment in a boss fight, which just makes it extra frustrating, especially when it doesn't need to be. I think the thing that annoyed me the most about this game is the pacing. It is constantly getting in the way of itself. Nearly every time you flip a page in the book to a new screen, you're greeted by dialogue. And it's usually just some quote-unquote character stuff. But it's so boring and bland. It grinds the game to a halt every single time this happens, and this happens very often. I played on adventure mode, which is supposed to be some kind of like normal challenging mode, versus the story mode, which I guess makes everything a lot easier. But holy shit, does this game hold your hand. It will tell you in text what you need to do, and then when you get to the area, the camera will show you where you need to go, and then the bookworm character will tell you again what you need to do. Like, holy hell, just let me play the fucking game. Oh, there's also some really half-assed upgrade system for your weapons, and you get another couple moves, but at the end of the day, you don't really need to get any of them. It doesn't really change the game all that much. And there's a bunch of collectibles you can get in the form of pieces of art. If this is adventure mode, I don't even want to know what the hell story mode is like. When I said earlier that I hate played this game, this is what I'm referring to. I did not want to finish this, but it was short enough that I knew the suffering would also be short. So on one side, the game really holds your hand, but on the other, there are instances where it's really obtuse for what you actually have to do, and in a few instances, I had to actually look it up online. For example, there are these green squiggles that appear on the page that allow you to go into the 3D world. 95% of the time, the game will show you exactly where you're supposed to go. But a few times it just didn't appear, and it wasn't at all obvious where exactly I was supposed to go. Because this game holds your hand so often and tells you exactly where you need to go, having to actually go and explore and find things on your own didn't really occur to me because I didn't think that this was that type of game. And it only happened in a few instances, so it's just these very odd one-offs that contribute to this kind of sporadic and disjointed feel that this game has.
Doesn't anyone notice this? I feel like I'm taking crazy pills!
There is one mechanic in this game that I think is really cool and kind of half-baked and really underutilized. A lot of the puzzles involve taking words out of a sentence to use another sentence to change around the storybook and complete the puzzle, like changing an object from one thing to another. It's used fairly regularly in the game, but I felt they could have used it a lot more and really leaned into this mechanic because it's really cool and it's actually quite unique in the way that it's presented. The game goes out of its way to be kind of an homage to 2D shooters and platformers, so a lot of the gameplay in these little vignettes are reminiscent of old games, and none of them are particularly amazing, but they're fun little distractions. So, the Plucky Squire is not better than the sum of its parts, but some of its parts are better than others. See what I did there? So to close the bread on this book, the Plucky Squire may start out as a delicious tasting sandwich, but eventually you're gonna get to that soggy bread. In the immortal words of Review Bra.
My disappointment is immeasurable, and my day is ruined.
Thanks for watching, and honestly, I don't recommend playing this game, but I do recommend liking and subscribing to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next one.